Okay. So hi everyone. Thank you all for coming. And today we're gonna take a look at an interesting feature in the ES6, which is called proxies. It's not the ordinary proxies, but it's kind of behave the same. But we'll take a look what it is. A little bit about me. My name is Khaled. I work here actually at Contentful. I'm the ecosystem developer in JavaScript. So I'm in the team that maintains the SDK, integration tool, and all the open source projects. And you can follow me on Twitter if you want. Yeah. So what's actually a proxy? A proxy is, as I said, is a ES6 feature that allows you to define behaviors whenever a property is accessed in your object. So if you request property foo from your object bar, you can actually define the behavior, what will happen when someone accesses this feature. So it's kind of like an interceptor, so you intercept all the access and then you define the behavior for that. So to check the support for the proxy, for Node, looks pretty good. We have full support in V6. And browser support is quite well, as you can see. Most of the famous browser supported: Edge, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. So it's kind of safe to use it. So it should be fine. With that out of the way, let's check a proxy. A proxy is basically a class that accepts two parameters: the target, which is your object that you want to intercept anything that will happen there, and then define the behavior, and then the handler. And the handler is the object that defines the behaviors for each access that you wanna do. So a proxy, actually, the target can be another proxy. So you can have like something like a chain. So also this should work. And to define the behaviors, you define something called a trap. So a trap can be a get, set, get property, like prototype of, and so on. You can see the list here. It's all there. So you can, for example, intercept the get whenever you do object dot property and then define the behavior there. We'll take a look at that in the demo. So what's a trap? A trap basically it's a function, and a function will accept depends on the function. It depends on the trap. It will accept different parameters. And here, once you define the property, you need actually to take care of all the default behaviors. If you don't define it, that's fine. The proxy will forward it to the target right away, and this is called the no-op forwarding proxy. So nothing will happen there as long as you don't define it. So let's move to the demo and check how we can do this. If I can find my terminal here. Hey, okay. So a simple example is I wanna define, I wanna control the access to my properties. Let's say the ID here, anything with underscore, I want it to be a private, like a private property, so nobody can access it from the outside world. And we can actually add some more validation. Like whenever I set the age, I want the age to be always a number. So let's define a few test cases that we will need here. So yeah, basically my setup is just npm project with jest running with a watch parameter. So whenever I change the file on the left, the test will be shown. The test result will be shown in the right. So first, we want to throw an exception whenever we try to access a private property. So we can define a function here, and then we try to access, for example, like the proxy, the ID of the proxy. So this should throw, right? And we unskip our test here. And if we save, This actually will okay, so this will fail because actually we didn't throw, we didn't control anything. So how to do that? We go to our handler, which is here, and then we define the trap, which is getter. So getter, what getter will get is our target, which is the original target, and then the property name. And this will be a function. So here we will check for anything that starts with underscore, and we'll consider it as a private, and then we throw the error. So we can just do if property, like the first character of property, if it's an underscore. Here we throw a type error, and then we say access denied, and then we save, and the test should be successful. So here I can't access this private property, and as you can see also the code look more clean, not like the other JavaScript ways. Okay, what about accessing the property? We also should throw an exception whenever we try to access a private property. So we can actually do the same. Let's define our test case. Sorry, here we're trying to set something, yeah? So we should throw an exception whenever we try to set a private property, which anything starts with underscore. So here, if we save, the test will fail because we didn't define any behavior. And then we need to do that. So we define a set trap. This will accept target, the property, and its value. Yeah, and this will be a function again. So here again we will use the same code. I mean, you can have it this in a separate function if the check is the same always, but for the sake of the demo, it's fine for now. And then we check if this starts with an underscore, we throw an exception again. And then access denied. And then if we save, our tests are passing again, as you can see, the first test. Okay, so there's a very important thing that we need to do here. So we defined the behavior for the get for anything that starts with underscore, but what about a normal property, like a public property, like age, for example? Let's check this and check our property. It's working fine. So we expect again that whenever we try to access a public property, no exception will be thrown, right? So if we do proxy.age here, and this should not throw an exception. And then we hit save. And it's fine. So getting didn't throw, which is fine, but what about trying to get the value of this object? So we try to do this. Proxy.age. So here, if everything worked fine, we should see 29, right? But then when we save, the test will fail. Why the test did fail? Because we didn't define the default behavior of the trap. So this is a very important thing. If you define a trap for anything, you need to define its default behavior after all you check. And in this case, it's basically just returning the value of this property inside of target. And then if we save, our test is working fine. So this is actually very important. This is the default behavior. So otherwise, your object will be behaving very differently and very strange. And then you start wondering why I'm not getting anything. Same for the set. So if if the property is not does not start with underscore, we should define the normal behavior, which is a normal equal. So we set the value of this property in the target, and and then you get the idea about that.
My question.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't set return boolean?
And yeah, set actually that's a good point. Set should return a boolean after you set the actual object. So this way you tell the object that the set was successful. But you need actually to set also the value in there. Okay.
Isn't the return value of an assignment expression the value being assigned?
Which value?
So you have to return it.
I mean, if you open a node shell and do const a is 1, doesn't it return 1?
But you don't know the value.
No, but you don't know actually the value, and like set expect to like in the proxy it's expect true to return true. It's the proxy thing, yeah. I can later show more blog posts about that. So if you wanna check the documentation.
I have just a question about the guess. If you return nothing, then it's returned null or it's returned undefined?
It's undefined. It's basically that's the default return value of a function in JavaScript. Okay, so let's move to more interesting usage of a proxy, and I think it's a really smart usage. Is migrating the code. Let's say you have thousands of lines of code and has a user object that is containing age, name, and email. And at some point, you decided to group these properties inside an object inside of your user object. So now it will be target.personalinfos.age instead of target.age. But then you don't want to break your code actually. So a proxy could be a nice usage here. You can use it to route the access of the properties from one side to another. So this way, you won't break your code, and then you can change your code in different, like you can change it, and then after it's done, you can get rid of the proxy and then give the normal object that you need. So with this, here what we will expect is that our proxy.h will be 29, and then we unskip our test to just include it. So if we save, the test will fail because it's expecting 29, but it gets undefined. And to do that, we just define this behavior in our handler. So here we define the get trap, and it will accept target and then the property as we said before, and then it's a function. So here what we want to do actually, we redirect or we return a value if it exists inside this group, this personal info. If you ask for the property name, I will return it for you. So I can just check if this property is actually in target.personalinfos. So if it's there, I return it to you. So the code won't break this time. So you won't receive undefined. So here I just return, if I can type it right, target personalinfos property. So our test should succeed now here. And then we can actually even make sure that it's fine. We can do here, it's proxy.personalinfos.age. So this should be equal to the other one, right? Yes, I'm the king of typos. And
Because you don't return in your get handler, you don't return.
yes,
That's why you
that's
get person info.
that's a good point. Define the main, like the default behavior. Don't forget that. So we return that. So as you can see, our test is succeeding. This is a really, really, really powerful thing that you can do. I mean, you can do more stuff. So what if also in our code, we have code that is setting user.age equals something? And we should not also break that. So we should define the setter for that. So we can just try to do another expect. And then before we expect, we need to set something. So if we do like proxy.age equal, I don't know, 30, and then here we expect that our proxy dot personal info, this is personal info dot age to be 30, right? Because there we where we want to test if this property is set or not. And then if we save, the test will fail because it's still 29. We didn't redirect the set to the exact property that we want. So to do that, it's fairly simple, and then it's a set trap, and what set will accept is target, and then we'll have the property name, and then the value that we want to set. And this will be a function, and then again we'll do the same check. So if the property actually is in target personal infos, just do some spaces. If it's there, we just do a normal set. We redirect that to the property, and then we set our value. Yeah, and we should define the normal behavior, which is setting if the property is like something else. If it's not there, actually here we need to. Come on, Vim. Here we need to return true because this is a valid set. We consider it as a valid set. So if the property does not exist in there, we just do the normal thing, which is just setting the property to the value and then return true. And then we hit save. And our test passes. So we can actually test getting and setting the outside property, for example, this user group. Now it's like outside of our object, but should behave normally, should work fine. So we can do that. So first we need to do proxy with user group to be Nodejs. And save. Still succeed, and everything is fine. And then when we set also a normal property, and then maybe we call it node meetup, and then we expect that our property is changed now. This should be a node meetup, and we save. And yeah, everything works fine. Should be okay. Okay. So one more thing. So anybody familiar with Python a little bit here? You know that if you pass a -1 to the array, you get the last item, right? But it would be cool to have that in JavaScript. So proxy will allow you to do that, actually. So what I have here, my target is an array. The handler is again is same project. It's an object, and then you define the property. You define your proxy, and then you push. Because here the proxy will be an array, so you can push directly. If you set it to another array, you will be overriding your proxy, so nothing will happen. You won't forward anything to the handler and so on. So I'm preparing my proxy here with 3 items. So what we expect from this array is first to work normally. So if we request proxy 0, which is the first item, this should be first, right? And then if we actually request proxy of -1, this should be the third one, because the last item. And actually even more we can do, if we request the proxy -2, it should be second, like the second to last item. So if we do -1 is here, -2 is here, -3 is here, and so on. Okay, and if we unskip this, the test should fail because it doesn't know what to, like it received undefined. So to do that is very simple. We go to our handler, and then here we define the get, and then here we receive a target property again.
So can I just ask, the reason that proxy.push worked is because it just basically went to the original object's prototype.
Yes.
So that's not impacted at all.
So push actually will even go, like you can even intercept functions in the get. So you can check for push and even do more stuff.
Yeah, because that's
why?
what I thought. Because since you passed in an empty handler,
Yeah.
push would fail if that push was a property of target.
Yeah.
Right. But
So
it didn't.
an empty handler is basically just an empty tunnel, so nothing will happen. So it will forward it to the target, which is an array, and it will work fine. So that's the thing. So here in an array, first we can check if our property actually is inside the target. This is the default behavior, so we return that. So here we get, if we request the item 0 of the array, we'll get it normally because this index exists inside of our object. But if we request -1, something that is not there, we need to have a special logic to handle the -1. So I will just, to make sure, cast this property. And again, here I won't cover all the edge cases that you can pass into array, like a string or a weird character, so I assume that you pass in -1, but you know the drill how to validate stuff, so we should not. And I assume also it's actually the index, like it's something negative. So here we just return target of target length, which is the length of our object, plus I, which is the index. And hopefully our test is passed, and it did pass. So yeah, this is a nice thing you can do into the thing. Of course, you can use the set and do of -1 equal to something, and then redirect the set also and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that's yeah, that's up to you and how you define that. Okay, yeah.
If you said, like, try to get something that doesn't exist, like, I don't know, A or something.
A?
Like something that's a number,
Yeah,
but
this
it doesn't exist on the...
it will fail because I didn't I didn't check for these. As I said, I assume that I have. Yeah.
And
if you pass not -2 but -10, for example.
Yeah, again, like I said, I'm not checking for everything. It's just, I mean, if we do the like the checks, this will cover the whole things. Like if it's a string, if it's like bigger than the length or less than the length, and so on and so forth. So
it should just be undefined. If you
uh,
access -10, then you just.
I mean, maybe we should make some cycling from.
yeah, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. It's up to you. Yeah.
So when you're building a library, like for example, something like ORM, like synchronizer, where
Mm-hmm.
when you get some sort of record from the database, you have this user instance.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get a value from that instance.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, you would use the getter method to get data value. But
Yeah.
there's also a private property there called underscore data values.
Yeah.
If you want to prevent somebody from ever accessing that, you would have to expose the proxy as the public part.
Exactly that. You will be giving the proxy back. As I said, also in migration, like the example of the migration we talked about, like this grouping of items, you will be giving the proxy to your other classes or expose it as this data module, and the proxy will do all the work for that.
Is there any specific difference between just to be exposing a regular object compared to proxy?
Proxy is an object also, so it's JavaScript. So yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's find the presentation. Yay. Okay. I have more. I will share the presentation with you. I have more examples in the inside of here. So I'll share the presentation with you, and then you can share. You can, for example, here there's an example of if the property does not exist, I return a default value. This also can make sense in some sort of software. If you want to always a default value, you can even go specific. If it's age, you return this. If it's name, return this, and so on. Also for the set, this is for validation. So you can have, for example, form validation using proxy. So you have a proxy, and then you just get the value, throw it in there, and the proxy will handle all the validation for you. If something like Mongoose is doing stuff like this, you can define the validation, and it will return a message and an error, so you can achieve that. Here, here is just logging. So if you, for example, wanna set. Whenever you set something, you can create a log. You can log it. That's also could be one thing you can do. And this is the array of the Python. Okay, one more thing about proxies. There's another type of proxy, which is called revocable proxy. So this is a more severe proxy than the normal one. So whenever you create it, so you can do new. Actually, forget about this new. It's wrong. It's proxy.revocable. It's a static function, but yeah, nobody saw that. It's bold. So this will return an object that contains the proxy and a revoke function. And actually, if you keep this revoke function around, you can, for example, control the access of one property. So you can maybe count if the user try to access this property more than 2 times. I just revoke the access for him, and he will never get access to my original target object anymore. So it's like denied. That's the thing. I didn't have time to prepare a demo, but I will share the more in the Node meetup page, like more references, more blog posts about that, and so on. Moving on, like proxies are cool and everything, but we should be wise and not use them everywhere, because with great power comes great responsibilities. So they're cool but super dangerous at the same time. So you need to be super careful about defining the behavior, and you need to commit. You need to, like, even people on your team, you need to tell them that you have a proxy, because they will be wondering, hey, why I didn't this didn't work, and so on. And also, don't go crazy with proxies. Like, don't do nested proxies, because maybe you define a behavior here, and then in another proxy, someone will change the behavior, and then you end up in a loop, and everything would be crazy. So just use it wisely, please. And more you can do, you can manipulate the DOM elements, so you can control the rendering and when maybe a child element or child node gets added and when not. You can do a renderer, for example. You can do anything, but it's you can also, as I said, control access for classes, and possibilities are endless. You can see like you can do whatever you want. It's not only about get and set. There's like you can control deletion. You can control if someone check if this property is inside the object. You can return false and tell him no, it doesn't exist, but it actually exists, and crazy stuff. So you can do all of that. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for being here.
Read an article about how to implement private properties in that topic with symbols and weak maps. Do you have any thoughts about how that compares to this approach with proxies?
I guess the other one maybe it could be maybe a bit safer because you don't have to deal with the default behaviors in set and get. But it depends on the use case. If you don't want to deal with weak maps and symbols and crazy stuff and keep things around, maybe you can have a simple wrapper as a proxy and it would work for you. It depends on the use case, I guess.
You want to have, for example, hybrid methods on ES6 class that you don't want anything else to use outside of that.
Yeah.
But it's used within the class itself.
Yeah. I mean, the approach here also, the good thing is like you can share maybe the handler. So you can have a class handler, and then whenever you have your class and you want to control properties, and you have, I don't know, because you need to have also some convention in your code, like underscore for private and all this stuff. It's not like weak map. Maybe you can map, okay, this function is somehow private and so on. So it depends on actually on the use case. Yeah.
Is there a big performance overhead to using proxies?
I can't answer that 100% because I didn't get the chance to test it, but I think there should be some performance which is expected because it's one other layer. So yeah, but I'll try to get an answer for that. Maybe post it in the Node meetup as soon as possible. Yeah.
Can you call proxy from itself? I mean, a recursive way?
I think
for this example with -3 and so on.
Yeah.
If you have the possibility to call it.
Yeah, I mean you can have a loop in just one proxy. You don't have to like recall the thing, but I mean yeah, you can do that, but it's gonna be a bit yeah, crazy, I would say. And then you.
As a side note, you could achieve something similar on ES5 with defined property, actually, object-defined property.
Yeah.
So this is how they did, for example, the syntax in Jai.
Yeah.
Jai, the way that it works, that they defined everything, so they actually defined property.
Yeah, I mean also Nodejs has these like getters and so on since a long time. So yeah, you can achieve that. But this is maybe performance-wise would be more elegant because it's in the browser's native object. So maybe you get this benefit, and you don't need to have another library to do that. It's already included in V8 or wherever. Yeah.
You can track more evidence than with defined property, right? You can like track more evidence than with defined property. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the list is yeah, here's like this is the list of all the stuff you can intercept. Yeah. You had a question?
Just question is interesting. Did you use it in production?
Production. That's a good question. Not yet, but I guess Benedict will start using it now more. Yeah, but I think, as I said, maybe I will use it if I need some migration stuff to do. Not really, because like production for us, we need to support more stuff like before. I mean, I had to support 0.10 node for a long time, and I'm happy it's dead now. So yeah, it depends also in your support. So yeah, but make perfect sense if you're using Node 6, you can use it in production, of course.
If for some reason you use inheritance with ES6 classes, do you have access to the base properties of the class you are inheriting from?
If it's proxy, it's a normal class. So I think if you inherit proxy, I guess, but then all the functionality are in the handler, which is a separate thing. So maybe you get some benefit when inheriting the stuff. Maybe there's, but I don't know like all the methods of the proxy, because it's mainly forwarding to the handler more than having the methods in the actual class. So yeah. Okay, so if no more questions, we can move to the next presentation. Thank you.